What is up, guys?
What's going on, CineNerds?
I am JP.
And I'm Ryan. And we're continuing our Marvel love and diving into
all four
of
the more recent, what I call I guess would be the X-Men First Class or
the
whatever.
Bryan Singer, and I forgot the fourth one, director's name already, but that little stretch, the most recent ones.
Well, Bryan Singer did the originals as well.
Oh my God, that's right.
And actually, the first one wasn't done by Bryan Singer. It was done...
I thought it was Bryan Singer.
Nope. It was done by Matthew Vaughn, who did Kick-Ass.
Look at this. We're learning.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because I didn't know that. And First Class is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's a solid film.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the synopsis first? Do you want to do the synopsis on First Class only? And then
we'll just hit First Class. We're going to do a quick synopsis, and we're going to do a quick impressions. We're going to hit these movies pretty quick and get to our ratings, since there are 4 of them, and we don't want to be here for 4 hours.
No, I don't think you guys do either. So let's get into it.
All right, X-Men First Class. In the 1960s, Charles Xavier and Eric Lensher meet and become friends while discovering their mutant abilities. They recruit other mutants, including Raven and Hank, who's Beast, to stop the villainous Sebastian Shaw, played by Kevin Bacon, who's threatening global nuclear war. As they work together, Xavier and Lensher, differing views on human-mutant relations, create tension, foreshadowing their eventual split into the X-Men and Magneto's Brotherhood. The film explores their early friendship and the events that snapped their iconic characters.
So this franchise episode, if you will, was kind of JP's brainchild. He suggested X-Men, and I was like, let's cover them all, and we kind of went from there.
Yeah, I was actually just going to do First Class, and he was like, let's just do all of them. So,
give a little more depth for you guys and try and get into these things a little quicker.
And for me, this series, I'm just going to kind of give an initial impression of the series in general. I think I'm going to give a very unpopular opinion at the end, but what I would think would be an unpopular opinion at the end of this. However, these 4 films, they have their issues, but these for me are just so rewatchable, and they're so fun, and they're fucking good. They are better than people would leave you to believe they are. First Class, honestly, is one of, if not the best X-Men movie, period. First Class is just top tier. Matthew Vaughn proves why he is such a good director. I mean, the guy did Kick-Ass. He did Kingsman. He did the Kingsman series. He is just a fucking amazing director, and what he did with this film is just top tier. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll just
every time you say top tier, I think of somebody saying in a British accent and followed up with bruv.
Well, you know,
top tier, bruv.
There's so many British actors in this, so.
So, yeah, this is first impression on First Class for me. Or are we doing the whole? No.
I kind of give a little broad, but I did First Class.
So, First Class impression is, honestly, this is for a superhero film and an X-Men film as well. I agree wholeheartedly. This is almost perfection. I love the way the story breaks down. I love the story as it moves along, the momentum that builds. I love how we find fragile and delicate, if you will, versions of these hero characters that we love, almost in the, all in the early stages. You're seeing also the division of mankind and mutants. It's just great. I love the way it unfolds and goes all the way into the events of Cuba. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cast in this
spectacular
is just it's amazing. You know, James McAvoy, and he has been good in anything I have seen him in. But the one thing that I want to talk about specifically with this one, and I don't know if you know this, but this movie was originally supposed to be a Magneto movie, a Magneto solo movie, like the Origins with Wolverine Origins. But since Wolverine Origins was not very well received, they basically took a lot of the ideas of the Origins Magneto film and rewrote it for First Class. That being said, Michael Fassbender as Magneto,
spectacular.
When he is on screen, he is fucking perfection in this role. And not just in this movie, in all of them.
No one that I know agreed with me on this, so I don't know your thoughts on it, but like, to me, like, I hated the movie Covenant, but Prometheus and the Alien franchise, Michael Fassbender ruled in this movie. I loved it. So yeah, anything he does, and especially on screen with this as this franchise goes and it builds, his development, his ins and outs, and who he becomes and what pulls his strings is so beautifully done. I was so impressed by it. So yeah. He's great. But James McAvoy, back to that, he's one of my top 5 favorite actors.
Yeah, he's great, and he's great as Xavier. This whole cast, I mean, Jason Fleming as Zazel. You've got Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw. The weakest links in this movie is the girl that plays Emma Frost. I think she's pretty one-dimensional, but she's not bad. But,
talk about an underutilized character, though.
Yeah, that
was one of my low points.
That's the only major low point is the lack of use of Emma Frost. But the other weak point, and this is going to continue for the next 4 films for me, for me the other weak point is Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique and Raven.
I agree to an extent.
I just think that she is a very one-dimensional actress, and I don't feel a lot of what she's putting out for this character. I think she's trying, but she's not. She's probably doing a pretty good job, but she's also playing next to 2 top-tier actors, and it's just not working, you know.
I didn't dislike what she did, but at the same time, by the time we get to Dark Phoenix, I'm like, oh my God, kill this bitch already.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. I mean, when you have her next to Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy, Xavier and Magneto, it's like she's annoying. It's like, please get her off screen. Why can't we have a better actress play this character? Because the character Mystique is a cool character.
Who was the model who played her in the other trilogy?
Rebecca Ramay Stamos.
She was great.
She was fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, she had kind of aged out for this young Mystique.
For sure, but I feel like this goes back to what we discussed previously, and that's finding new actors to fill roles. And who cares if they're next to the top tier, if they can deliver and not be afraid and get those lines right? Because you're right, she is one-dimensional. I got the Katniss vibe the whole time.
Yeah. But, and the other gem in this, Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw.
That's a little weak.
Really? Because I think he's amazing.
I think he got better as it moved along, but in the beginning and even in the middle, I wasn't impressed.
I loved that whole opening scene in Germany, and with him killing his mother, and him just so excited to see his powers.
The imagery. I like the imagery and the scenery of what's happening.
I like just his energy of like when he starts using his powers. He's like, I just think he's great.
I agree, but he also, like you just said with Katniss, one-dimensional to me. He's the same actor in every movie just about. So I love Kevin Bacon, don't get me wrong. It's a fun game to play, the 6 degrees or 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but that one didn't. That one is not solidifying this story for me.
All right. So this movie, I mean, I don't know. I think the characters in this movie are great. There are some weaker ones. I think what's his name from Warm Bodies that played Hank.
Oh, he did a great job.
Nicholas Hoult, and he's playing Lex Luthor in the new Superman, and he did a great job. Everybody else was pretty solid.
Hank stays. Nicholas, either one, does a pretty amazing supporting role all throughout the entire franchise.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's consistently pretty good through the entire franchise.
Shittles.
You messed up.
I did.
So we're going to move out of this one pretty quick.
So essentially, the X-Men in First Class, they form the first class of X-Men, and that's the whole basis of this. It's the war they fight to get there, how it transpires, and what builds into the second one, which in my opinion, and I know maybe not yours, is the best movie of the franchise. I love Days of Future Past.
I think First Class and Days of Future Past are on par with each other.
Fair. If I had to choose one or the other, for me, Days of Future Past wins. But I'm also partial to the character of Bishop, and when I got to see him on screen, I geeked out hard.
Well, and I think that's what makes Days of Future Past more. I think more people gravitate to it because you know the characters better in Days of Future Past. Where First Class, the only ones you're really familiar with is Mystique, Xavier, and Magneto. And Beast, but then you've got all these other new characters.
Storm too.
Storm's not in.
Yes, she is.
First Class.
No. She's in Days of.
Yeah, but I'm talking about First Class.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
Everybody in First Class, outside of those characters, you're not real familiar. Nobody's real familiar with Havoc. They're not real familiar with Azazel. I'm familiar with Azazel and Sebastian Shaw, but
Havoc aside. And Raven aside, or Mystique, I mean that's essentially X-Men originally. So it's there's some tweaks there, but you know what I'm saying. They're developing it as they needed to for the purpose of a cinematic delivery.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
So Days of Future Past. First of all, First Class culminates with a giant battle on a beach in Cuba. Warships are involved. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Magneto is Magneto, delivers at the right moment and bridges into a next phase, if you will, that brings us to Days of Future Past.
It shows that transition of when they were friends to now they're on separate sides.
Yes. And to your point, the forming of the Brotherhood and the X-Men. Days of Future Past, the reason this one's so cool is because you have Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy playing Professor X. You've got all the past and present versions of themselves, how they came to be, who they are, Magneto included. And man, was it done well. And the way that they sent Wolverine back, because he's the only one who could regenerate and continue.
His mind could regenerate fast enough to make the trip back.
From Ellen... At this time, Ellen Page, who played Kitty Pryde,
and he sent him back to 1973.
Mm-hmm. What a funny fucking scene too when he wakes up next to the daughter of like a mob boss or something, and the guys come in thinking they're going to mess him up.
I read that they wanted him to come out of bed in boxers, and Hugh Jackman said, "I'm Australian. If I'm laying in bed next to a pretty lady, we're not in boxers." And so that's why it was actually Hugh Jackman's call to come out nude.
All right. Well, there's no point in this movie that I was dissatisfied or upset. Mr. Trask, who developed the Sentinel program,
was played by Peter Dinklage.
Yes, the Dinklebot. That's what I do. I drink things, or I know things, and I drink. Right?
Yeah, I drink and I know things.
Yes, from Game of Thrones. But no, he crushed it. But the way that this movie unfolds, you're really seeing the depth and the dynamic of the division of mutants and mankind and what's happening. And you're seeing the extent of the fear from humanity where they're developing these side programs, and Trask is kind of playing these things to his abilities to get approved funding to build more Sentinels. And man, it just was done well. The whole scene where the people don't know there's really mutants, and they're both Mystique and Beast come out, and they're bright blue, and people are like, "Wow!" It was just good. It was fun.
And this is the first time you get to see Quicksilver.
Yes.
In the very famous breakout scene with Quicksilver breaking Magneto out of the basement of the Pentagon.
Now, let's be honest. I like the other Quicksilver that was in the Avengers movie, but this dude rules.
Evan Peters, I think, was a better selection.
I do too. I agree.
For Quicksilver. And that whole scene is just, it's such a fun scene with him speeding around all the security guys as he's breaking Magneto out. It's just...
If I could save time. What an appropriate song.
And, this... And again, just like the first one, anytime Magneto is on screen, I'm there for it. Like, he is just embodied this character. And start to finish, every time he's on screen, it's just, these movies really are the Magneto show.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And again, the whole thing for me with this movie was the bridge of it does something else too, but the bridge of our old school characters that started off the first trilogy with the new school and the way that they came to be, who they are, and it just gives you such a, this is badass. And seeing the future fight when they're in that stronghold, and the way that Magneto just uses all of his power to shut that door, and then Kitty Pryde basically jumps him into the room so he's safe, but he's already injured. There's so much happening in this, and the way the Sentinels are coming in, and they're the newer Sentinels too.
Yeah, they're the ones that have basically they can adapt to any mutant power.
One thing I didn't like about the way they looked, so in the comics, they're more of a white robot with a pink face. And I know they had to make them darker for the purposes of the movies and how that translates, but they made them look like the thing that is from Thor.
I can see that.
They look just like that thing from Thor. So I was
very
like,
similar.
I was like, is that a freaking Sentinel? So I have a whole bunch of questions
on
on that.
And you also find out in this one, after they get out of the future and into the past, that most of the mutants from the original First Class are dead now.
Yep.
That Trask has done experiments on, has caught them and done experiments on them, and so
but he did experiments with and Mystique was his first because he wanted her adaptability to be there. But these Sentinels have mutant hunting abilities inside of them that are just amazing, and they basically get to the point in the future where they can take on their powers and basically kick their own asses with their own powers. You're seeing that was something that was really cool too. I do want to dig in that before we go forward, but Kitty Pryde, the whole thing they would do, because she can essentially have people time travel, is right before their base is about to get shut down and crushed, or they get killed, anything, she would go into someone's head and send them back 2 or 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And that way they could prepare so they wouldn't be in the same location, so they could keep moving around. And I thought that was awesome.
So I do want to talk about that real quick. I'm assuming you watched the theatrical version.
It was what was on Disney, so yeah.
Yeah. So I've watched these movies so many times, but I decided that I was going to rewatch what is called the Rogue Cut. Have you ever seen the Rogue Cut of this film? No, I have not. I prefer this cut. It's essentially the same movie, but about halfway to 3/4 of the way through the movie, after there's a scene where Wolverine wakes up earlier on and he ends up inadvertently cutting and stabbing Kitty Pryde.
I did see that.
Okay. So in the Rogue Cut, she gets too weak to keep holding him there because she's losing too much blood and she's starts kind of falling out. So Magneto and I can't remember who else goes, but they go to this facility to break Rogue out of this encampment facility. And so they break Rogue out, bring Rogue there, and Rogue takes Kitty's powers and takes her place for the rest of the film.
Oh, that would have been great! Why didn't they keep that in there?
And well, there is a version. It's called the Rogue Cut.
They should just rebrand everything, especially since Alan's Elliott now.
I'm not sure if Disney Plus has the Rogue Cut, but you can buy the Rogue Cut digitally and on DVD, and it is the better version.
I am in the process of trying to get every movie we review, the physical copies and the best versions. So
I'm gonna look. Go ahead. I'm gonna look up to see if this version is on Disney Plus. So
okay, all right. So essentially, I talked about the character Bishop. If you don't know the character Bishop essentially, in the comics and X-Men 97, Bishop is so pivotal to the continuity of the storyline and the X-Men survival, and the fact that he joins up with the X-Men and becomes part of the X-Men versus going back to his own time at one point. He raises who you come to know as Cable, and there's just so many cool things about him. And because in the future mutants were branded with the M over their right eye, he has this giant M tattoo, or in the version it's a branding. And his powers, he absorbs any energy and he can send it back out at anyone. And it was so good.
It is not on Disney Plus. I thought it might have been, but you can purchase the road cut of this on any digital site, and it is available on Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah, I don't know, digital. Screw digital. Physical media all day.
I have it on both. I have it on digital and DVD or Blu-ray. So,
yeah. So I just was very pleasantly surprised to see him in it. It made my day. Honestly, it made the movie all the better. The way that you're seeing these characters all come to be. Now, the hope is that by Wolverine going back in the past, coming into the 70s, communicating with Professor X, waking him up out of his depression, bringing the X-Men team back together, the hope is that they will rewrite their future and they won't be in the situation they're in with the Sentinels attacking and killing all mutant kind. So what happens by the end of this movie is that you essentially have a new timeline. Mm-hmm. So the original trilogy that we had, X-Men 1, 2, and 3...
does no longer exist in this timeline.
Not in this timeline. This is its own thing. So this is where those anchor points in the TVA start splitting off. But at this time, we didn't have those established boundaries for definitions, should I say. So, which takes us into the least favorite of mine out of these 4 movies.
Apocalypse.
X-Men Apocalypse.
Now, this movie has... This is definitely, and I agree. I completely 100% agree with you. It is the weakest, and really with what this movie should have been the best, with bringing Apocalypse in and the character Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen. But it fails on so many levels. Now, I can watch this film and still have fun with it. I do enjoy this film, and again, just like the first 2 films, anytime Magneto is on screen, it is powerful. And he is the star of this film. But I want to say that we also get, for me, a new star of this film in Apocalypse with Sophie Turner.
Yeah.
Sophie Turner as Jean Grey is great.
I didn't think so in this one.
By the end of this
yes.
one. By the end of this one.
So these are some of my minor issues with this. And granted, it's a new timeline, so it doesn't matter. But like, to me, I thought James McAvoy could translate to Professor X, Patrick Stewart. I thought that Michael Fassbender could become Ian McKellen. I thought all these things would not McKellen. I'm having a brain fart. Is it McClellan? No, that's right. Because I'm mixing up my Ians because there's McDermott from Star Wars. And anyways, but you see the possibilities of them becoming those people as they would transition through the years. Sophie Turner and whoever the kid is that they brought in for Cyclops, they just didn't translate to me.
They don't translate, but I don't think they have to.
Not anymore. No, you're right. Not anymore. It's a different storyline.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can hear that. I can understand that. But the Scott Summers dude definitely annoyed the shit out of me. I wasn't a fan.
I'm gonna be real with you. He's a little annoying. However, if we're going to compare him to what's his name, James Masterson, or from the original Cyclops, I will argue that he is 100 times better than his portrayal of Cyclops, because his Cyclops in the original trilogy, he is a whiny little bitch that just annoyed the fuck out of me and just boo-hooed over Jean then through 3 films, to the point that when she finally kills him, he's sitting there crying over her, and she comes out and kills him. And essentially Jean Grey was even saying, fuck you, Cyclops, you're annoying. And
I didn't get all that out of him, and that's one of those instances where I blame the director. That's where
that would be Bryan Singer.
Yes, I know. So I I do think that was a lot. There's a lot of mistakes made in that trilogy. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but this one, this is one thing I want to say. This new class, which is Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, Cyclops, I like the casting, especially Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler and Jean Grey, and Storm is not bad.
If they're doing new, I guarantee that girl is not aged, whoever she is. That, to me, is Storm.
Well, my personal opinion, if MCU does X-Men, there's no reason to not bring this X-Men class back into the MCU, because to me, everybody in these roles could play these roles for years to come, and I think everybody in these roles, outside of what I've already talked about with Jennifer Lawrence, are absolutely perfect for the roles that they were casted in the Fox universe. I think bring them all back. Bring everybody back and just give us a new Wolverine and Gambit, and let's move forward.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with that. Apocalypse. So
Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse is horrible.
I'm not going to say horrible, because I don't mind him. I even was listening really deeply to his voice inflections. I more so was pissed about the makeup, dude. He just looked, it was such a bad look. There's just nothing good about it. And again, I'm in the same perplexed moment as I was for when we talked about Wolverine, or Deadpool Wolverine with Veronica. There's so much power there, but yet that power wasn't there when he needed to fight these guys. Like, it just didn't translate.
And real quick, I want to backtrack just a little bit, because again, I'm going to talk about Magneto, because it is the Magneto show.
When he becomes one of the Four Horsemen.
Well, let's get back before that. When he's there, he's with his family. You find out Magneto's been in hiding. He's started a new life. He's married. He has a child. Officers, local cops there, find out that he is Magneto, and so they come to his home and accidentally kill his child and wife. And
in one shot,
one shot, and Magneto snaps and immediately kills every police officer there.
But how does he do it?
He does it with a necklace.
His daughter's locket.
Yes.
Falls off in his hand, and he sees it, and it just floats up, and all these guys in slow motion, just zip, 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 all of them just fall down and die. And it doesn't stop there. He goes from there into the freaking factory he was working at.
Were the people who actually called the cops.
Yeah, so basically there was a person that was going to get hurt. He used his power to make sure the person was safe, but they reported him, and then the cops found out who he was. So he goes in there with the intention to kill them, and then Apocalypse portals in and just turns all these people to pudding. But
but every time Magneto's on screen is top tier. That whole scene when his wife and daughter died, you feel that shit with him. And as bad as this movie is,
it's got some redeeming moments.
It's got so many redeeming moments with like all the Magneto stuff. We also got to see Caliban.
Yep.
I got to see Caliban again from Logan, but a younger version. Yep. I think all the stuff with Jean Grey is very redeeming. There's a lot of stuff with James McAvoy that is really good. I will say this. We said a minute ago how great the Quicksilver scene was in Days of Future Past. Now, I think this does a Quicksilver scene as well. I think this is the better scene. I think this is the better version. The only problem with this version of this scene with Quicksilver is that you're essentially in the middle of the film redoing what you did in Days of Future Past. That's the only issue with the Quicksilver scene in Apocalypse. However, I think the scene is actually better than the one they did in Days of Future Past, with him saving all the kids in the mansion as it's blowing up.
I like that they thought it out. Like I actually envisioned this scene as like Mousetrap, when you build the mousetrap and you got to make sure everything lands the way it does, so everything lines up to make everything happen right at the right moment.
Yeah.
It's like that, where he's lined up the trees, he's got the blanket, he's throwing the kids out, knowing that when everything comes in a regular time, that they're going to hit that blanket, slide down. He's got it all mapped out, and that was kind of cool. But for me, I liked the first series better, only because that was the first time he did it.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Had that one not been in the first one, and we got this one,
It would have been,
it would have been top tier
for sure. I still think it was.
Oh no, it is. It's better than the original. It's just the original was done first, and you're just redoing the same trick that you did in the previous film. And then we get to the ending of this movie, and this is when it turns again for me, because you start seeing what I was saying with Sophie Turner playing Jean Grey, and a lot of people had a problem with this scene and I have a little bit of issues with it, but you know, it's movies, it's not the comics. You get the shades of Phoenix, but before she's actually went to space and been absorbed this Phoenix Force power.
But the Phoenix that's in her, it's always been in her, so like it just allowed her to absorb that power.
Yeah, and that's the argument that I've been making, that we don't have to follow the comics. Directors are going to do their own liberties. That I feel like that power is in her, and that what she absorbed is just that force power that is going to bring it out. But you see these early shades of it, and you see Sophie Turner just really kind of coming into this role by the end of this film. And it's such a good scene with Xavier on the ground and her walking in his mind. You know, it's a pretty powerful scene at the end with her.
Did you read the X-Men comic book series Executioner's Song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really good. There's a lot of different ways I would like to see Apocalypse be delivered. I didn't feel this was it.
No.
But the things we did get out of this movie were great. I did have a lot of fun. I liked seeing Michael Fassbender when he's got his orbs of all the material and wreckage and everything, and he's just like in his own trance, and then Raven starts talking to him, and she just barely gets through into him to make him turn around. And then all the other horsemen of the apocalypse are seeing how, like, Archangel, he just got destroyed.
Yeah.
And so, but when you see the betrayals happening against his own horsemen, the other horsemen, you know, you got Magneto turns, Storm turns, everyone just goes at him.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, it's got its issues. We know it. You know, there's not much more to say about Apocalypse. Should have been handled differently, a lot differently, especially if you're a fan of the Age of Apocalypse comics. And I'm not one of these that has to be comic book accurate, but goddamn, that wasn't even in a realm of what it should have been.
If there was a way that they could have brought Storm in sooner in a better way, I would have been cool if it went from Days of Future Past to Dark Phoenix, honestly, because I feel like those three movies all mesh well, they all went well, and it flowed. So let's talk about Dark Phoenix now.
Dark Phoenix. So this one had a lot of mixed reviews when it came out.
It did. That's what prevented me from watching it altogether.
And I went to the theater and watched it, as I'm a massive X-Men fan. I watch all these. I even, as things opened up back up from COVID, I went to the first movie I watched in the theater after COVID was the New Mutants. So, I mean, I even went to the theater and watched that one. But Dark Phoenix, a lot of people hated on this movie. Now, I get some of the why. Because this is not the Dark Phoenix that we want to see. However, this was supposed to be a start of the next trilogy. That was what this movie was supposed to be. And we probably would have gotten to see the Phoenix that we all wanted to see, because that was the direction that they wanted to go in. But this film wasn't given the time to bloom and blossom, because between it not doing very well at the box office, the Fox-Disney merger, there was so many projects that were doomed. And there was one thing about this film. This film was delayed and delayed, and so was New Mutants. They were both delayed and delayed and delayed because of this Fox merger. And one thing that I've read recently was they had said that they had to redo and do reshoots to change the ending because it didn't test well and this and that. So they changed the ending. Well, when this first came out, that is the opposite of what I read in interviews back then.
Okay.
What I read back then was Disney wanted this ending changed because they didn't want another Marvel character to be on screen that was stronger than Captain Marvel. And because they were telling people that Captain Marvel was the strongest person in the MCU, most powerful person in the MCU. And from what I read back then, they were saying that Sophie Turner's Phoenix was obviously more powerful than Captain Marvel. Disney didn't like that, and they wanted it changed. So they went back and did reshoots and changed a lot of stuff to power down the Phoenix, which is what none of us wanted to see. None of us wanted to see a powered down Phoenix. We wanted to see Phoenix at the most powerful character in pretty much the MCU because she is
in her darkest moment. Yeah, no, for me, like last night was the first time I've seen this movie. And so I went into it really thinking the worst after seeing Apocalypse again. And I was like, people tore this apart. They said it was garbage. It was this, it was that. And I started watching this thing, and what I saw was actually a well-done story, start to finish. I saw new characters get implemented. I saw the old characters from Apocalypse the old characters from Apocalypse get reutilized and repurposed almost and be part of the team now. Storm being one of the main ones. You saw Eric or Magneto starting his own area with sanctioned land from the government now because he was considered a hero. And it was really, really great seeing it unfold. But the big thing was watching Jean become herself, but it took a while to get there in a good way. A good way. I'm not saying there's a pacing issue or anything. She just really, like, you could tell she was having a mental breakdown, a mental crisis. She's finding out that her mom and dad die in a car wreck when she's little, and then that's how Professor X gets her. But the dad didn't die, and he has abandoned her because he didn't know how to deal with her. And Charles did the best he could, and she doesn't see it that way. She sees it as a lie, and so she's literally left. She's killed people, including, at this juncture, I'll say it out loud, she killed Raven. She killed Mystique,
God.
Which is funny because, like, 30 seconds before that, when she's trying to convince Hank to leave the X-Men because she thinks Charles is an egomaniac and this and that, I was like, well, this bitch, shut up already. I was so mad at her because she's got more and more annoying. Now, however, there was a cool line I liked a little bit before because you were talking about Captain Marvel. There was a moment where she is dissing Charles hard, and she goes, X-Men, this should be called X-Women because we've been doing a lot of the saving of you guys lately. And the way she said it and delivered it, it wasn't the exact context, but it was pretty to the point in that realm. And I was like, that's pretty cool because there's still a balance in the team. They got the guys and they got the girls, and I was here for it because Dark Phoenix is way more powerful than anyone on that team.
Yeah.
So,
now, that opening scene is fantastic.
Yes, it
in
is.
Dark Phoenix with her parents, her as a child. That whole scene, as soon as I remember watching that in the theater and thinking, damn, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Because that opening scene is great. And again, this movie, you don't have as much of him. You don't have as much Magneto. But again, when he's on screen, he's great. Xavier's great in this. Nightcrawler just as great in this as he was the last one.
When he spazzes out in the end and you hear him start growling, I was like, hell yeah, let's go.
That kid that plays Nightcrawler is fucking amazing.
He's in a horror movie that I didn't think it was him. He's Owen in Let Me In.
I don't think I've watched that one.
So there's that one, and then he was in a couple other things too that I hadn't seen. Or that I've seen, sorry, that I didn't think about it, thinking it was him. But yeah, he's great. I didn't expect that out of him. I was glad that he stepped up when it mattered in the movie. But the whole thing that really pulls this whole movie together, the whole thing that kind of causes Jean to step over, is there's this initial sequence where astronauts are stuck in space. They say it was solar flares that caused the ship to spin out of control. President calls the X-Men. So the X-Men go up into space. They have a plan. They start doing all these things. The last one on the ship, Nightcrawler couldn't get her out when the explosion, or the alien entity started going towards the spaceship. He didn't get her out in time, and she ends up absorbing all of this energy. Primarily, she absorbs it because she doesn't want the X-Men to get killed.
No, she's trying to save everybody.
She's trying to save them, yeah.
Because she sees this solar energy going towards their ship, and so she actually pulls it to her, and then she absorbs it. And then you get the Dabari show up on Earth. And
the Schmalians. Well, a couple of them show up on Earth, but they've already been there the way that it looked. So they already had tried to establish. And this entity that Jean absorbs destroyed their homeworld, and they're trying to find that because they want to
control it. They want to be able to use it to create life and create a new world for them, essentially.
But using our world.
Yeah.
So this inner conflict is stemmed from her now. All the things that Charles has shut off. And I know we're doing a little play-by-play here, sorry. But all the things that Charles shut off are coming back to the surface, and she knows what's what. And that ensues this whole back and forth. Magneto, when he finds out that Raven was who she killed.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you get like a jacked up, pissed off Magneto going after Jean Grey and going to kill her, and it doesn't go well for him.
No. And what's funny is it was too predictable, I don't know, but as soon as he pulled the helmet out in the trunk, Noah walks by my son, and he goes, "Dad, what's that?" I go, "It's Magneto's helmet, so no psychics can read his mind or twist him to do what they want." And I go, but he's going up against Jean Grey. She's probably going to I said she's either going to smash it into his head, or she's just going to toss it off of him. And sure as shit, she starts crushing the helmet on his head.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, and they go to some extremes in this one. I mean, the Dabari show up and kill people and then take their bodies over. You got Jean that's just fucking people up. Start to finish.
I had never heard of this alien species, and I instantly just thought of the Skrull.
Yeah.
So they were very similar to that. I think maybe for Marvel purposes, because Marvel owns the Skrull, I honestly think that these were...
They could be.
Made for Foxverse.
But then you got the sequence of they actually start to absorb the power and from her, and she...
It gets interrupted.
And they take her off. The government shows up and they arrest pretty much everybody. And then the Dabari start chasing down this train they're on. And then that fight scene, that's a great fight scene. That whole ending fight scene,
all of it,
start to finish, is just fantastic. Anybody that hates on this film...
That's what I couldn't understand after I finished it. Because I was like, wow, this thing got so much hate and didn't deserve it. It was actually really well done. I
think all the hate they got on this film was because you didn't get the Phoenix, the Dark Phoenix that everybody wanted to see. But this was supposed to be the beginning of a new trilogy. We was going to get it, had things been different. This was just an introductory Dark Phoenix was all this was.
Well, I didn't know that, so that's interesting for me. I'm pretty happy to hear that. Well, not that we didn't get it, but I'm happy to know that.
Those fight scenes are so good, especially Magneto finally switches back to helping Jean. And
it's what Raven would want.
Yeah. Then once Jean wakes back up, she starts smashing the train, saves all of her friends, gets on the ground. As the Dabari are showing up to grab her, she's just disintegrating them. She's just waving her hand, disintegrating anybody that gets near her. I mean, she's just so overpowered even.
And one of the attention to detail that they did that I did really care for, and it's all CGI, I know, but the fire veins on her face. I love the fire veins flowing through her skin, and it wasn't like she didn't turn into like lava person. It was just like the fire veins slowly moving through her blood. And she's face to face with the main bad chick. By the way, that bad chick is so fucking hot. I'm just gonna say it. She's wow. But anyways, when they're having this scene, she looks over at Scott, Cyclops, and she sees him hold his hand up, and his hand's starting to fade away into ash because the villain is essentially trying to kill whoever she can and use this power to do so. And all of a sudden, Jean like amplifies. She like wakes up even more than she was and just starts messing her up. So,
yeah, she flies her into space.
Yeah. And then you get the firework, Phoenix.
The Phoenix.
That was a little cheesy. I will say that. That was. I have to say that was a little cheesy, but it worked.
But it was very comic bookish. I can accept it.
And so was the Phoenix in the lake that everyone complains about.
Yeah.
But
so that is the Dark Phoenix. I wish we'd have got that trilogy. This is why I really hope that we can just get this entire cast back.
I don't think we will.
I don't think we will, but I would love to see this entire cast back as X-Men in the MCU. And I didn't say this at the beginning of the episode, but we've had this here. To start this, I went and watched the made-for-TV movie Generation X that I have on DVD to prepare for my X-Men adventure for this. So I started this watching the Generation X made-for-TV movie.
And I haven't seen this, but if you notice who's on the cover, it's a very wonderful cartoon book version of Emma Frost.
Yep.
And again, very poorly utilized.
This movie, actually, Emma Frost is the kind of the Professor X.
There's a part in the comics where she does that.
Yeah. So you have
Generation X. That's okay.
Yeah, you have Emma Frost and Banshee that are running the Xavier School. So yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. We thought about this? We were going to rate these all together, but we're going to do it individually because it's not fair to the rest of the franchise that we thought so lowly of Apocalypse.
So First Class.
Do I have to go first?
You don't have to. I can go first.
Well, was kind of your pick. So
okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
First Class for me is one of the best X-Men films that have been done, and it's one of the better comic book films. Period. I won't say it's the best, but it's up there. This film is probably. I'm going to set this film probably at a 4.3.
Dude, get the fuck out of my head.
Stop copying me.
Dude, seriously. What was the last one we just hit? Logan? Was it Logan that we did 4.5?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Anyways, go ahead. That's same thing I'm giving it.
Okay. So, yeah. There we go. Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past. I'll rate first on this one.
First,
yeah. So for me, this one's my favorite of the franchise. So I'm going to go 4.6 nerds on this. I love this thoroughly, start to finish. Every aspect, moving back and forth in time, the way they delivered the Logan to go back in time to help move things along in the right direction. The death scenes that happen in this while fighting Sentinels. Oh, this movie just delivered it for me all the way across the board. So 4.6 nerds for me on this one.
I'm going to go probably. I'm going to go 4.3 again. I'm pretty dead even on First Class and Days of Future Past. And like I said earlier, I prefer the Rogue cut of Days of Future Past.
I got to check that out. Who plays Rogue? Is it? Get out of here! Really?
Oh yeah. It's the original Rogue.
All right.
Yeah, so it's essentially the same movie, just with that cut into it, and it's.
I swear, now that you're saying that, I'm thinking through, and I'm thinking I've seen this.
To me, it's the better version.
Okay.
It's not really anything different other than that, and that's.
Okay.
So yeah, I think Days of Future Past is just fucking amazing.
Cool. Age of Apocalypse. You go first in this one.
So there's a lot of things I love about Apocalypse, but it is definitely the worst of the newer X-Men films. I think it's still better than Last Stand from the original trilogy, and it's leaps and bounds better than Origins Wolverine. But this one, it's a hard watch because they butchered Apocalypse. This one, I'm going to go. It's going to go down to. I'm going to give it an even 3, just because I think it's still fun to watch. I still get enjoyment out of watching this film. Now, it's not a great one. It really this film is one of the reasons I think that Dark Phoenix got so much hate, was because Apocalypse was rough.
I can see that. For me, this one was the worst of all the X-Men movies. There are a lot of redeeming qualities, though. I'll give it to you, because I was going to go real low on this one, but as I'm thinking through it and you were talking, there are redeeming qualities, and there are some good things that came out of this, like primarily Storm more than anything. That actress is, I think, meant for Storm, and she's awesome. She's great. So I'll come up on it. What'd you say?
Even 3.
You said even 3. I'll go with 2.7. 2.7 nerds from me on Age of Apocalypse.
Dark Phoenix. I'm going to let you go first on this.
All right. Dark Phoenix, a pleasant surprise compared to what I thought I was going into after dealing with Apocalypse. I hadn't watched it. Watched it for the first time ever last night. And this one matched the tempo. It matched the mood. It matched everything that First Class and Days of Future Past had. And I thought, to me, with the exception of Storm and Caliban, I think if you would have taken away Apocalypse, those 3 would have been a great trilogy to me. I really did enjoy Dark Phoenix start to finish. Fun movie, good movie, great fight scenes, quality story as well. So I'm going to let's go 3.8 nerds for me on that one. Fuck you. Dude, this is disgusting.
No, okay. We're close. We're close, though.
Okay.
So Dark Phoenix for me, I went to the theater and watched this. I love this movie. I've watched this movie a number of times since 2019 when it came out, I think it was. And I fucking love this movie, and this was supposed to be the beginning of another trilogy. Had this trilogy happened, I feel like there's a good chance I would rate this as high as First Class and Days of Future Past, had we got that trilogy, and that trilogy been good and pretty solid. We didn't. So we're left lingering with unanswered questions by the end of Dark Phoenix, because we didn't get any more films because of the Fox-Disney merger. But I fucking love this film, and I think the fight scenes are great. Every character's great. We finally killed Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique off, and that was a major plus for this film. And it's just, it got so much hate, and unneeded hate. And I think a lot of people like you passed on it because it was just getting so much hate. And this movie is fucking good. Sophie Turner is fucking amazing as Jean Grey, and I want to see her more as Jean Grey. I want to see Nightcrawler. I want to see more of that Nightcrawler. I am going to give this a dead even 4.
Okay.
4.0 nerds. And I'm going to give my unpopular opinion that I said at the beginning of this. The Fox X-Men films have gotten a lot of hate over the years, especially since the MCU started, with Iron Man and the whole MCU universe. I prefer, and I have more fun and rewatchability on these films than I do pretty much almost any MCU movie. I can rewatch these Fox Universe films over and over and over, and I still fucking enjoy them. I can't do that with a lot of the MCU movies.
I can do it with the Avengers films.
I can do it with Captain America. I can do it with the Guardians movies. That's about it.
No, I can do it with the Avengers. Those ones keep me engaged. At least I'm a fan. I mean, there's a lot. There's almost too much going on at times, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. So these are guilty pleasures for me that I can rewatch these anytime. And are they perfect X-Men films? No. Is it the X-Men films I've wanted? No. But they were getting there.
All right. Well, 3cinenerds@gmail.com is the email. Send us anything you got. We want to hear from you. And if you need to find out where you can listen to us and hear our podcasts when you're on the go or whatever, please check out our bio on our Facebook page. It has our link tree, and it'll show you all of the options that you have.
please write us a review. Go invite your friends. Go to your friends and just tell them. Say, hey, check out this podcast. You don't even have to send them invites. Just tell them about us. Get the word out there. And until next time.
Peace.
Later.